Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bluegrass State for tonight's Sam Maxwell Customs Bluegrass 150 from the Kentucky Speedway. It's round 2 of 16 for the American Sim Racing Series Sim Marketing Solutions Cup Series. I am Peter Short here on 3Wide TV, and joining me once again tonight is my partner in crime, Cameron Rich. Cameron, last week was Atlanta Motor Speedway. Jared Mogard took his 0-0 to victory lane, but this track is wildly different. How does Kentucky differ from Atlanta?
Yeah, it's on paper, it's a 1.5 mile intermediate, just like Atlanta Motor Speedway, but the similarities end there. This track is quite a bit less banked and very bumpy, so quite different in the way you race it. A very, just like Atlanta though, it's a very multi-groove influenced racetrack, so I do think that some similarities can be had there, but like you said, very different.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we've been watching some of these guys here in practice, which we have about 7.5 minutes left. You're watching Ty Hester in his Hunt Brothers Pizza Toyota Camry, and you can see that they're kind of running different grooves. You see Ty running a little bit higher up on the track here. We've seen people running a little bit lower on fresh tires, but now here is Ty running the high groove, and definitely the lower groove has a lot more bumps down there, and you'll see the drivers avoid those tonight because it looks like these cars are a little bit loose, Cameron.
Yeah, and part of that has to do with just the track surface itself. It's very bumpy, like we said, and you know, has not aged well at all. Of course, this track is a little bit old. Was reconfigured in real life a couple years ago, but we are running on the old version. But still, it's a very wide track too, as we see on the screen right here. You swing out wide out of turn 4, and it's so deceiving, that corner, that it really catches a lot of drivers out.
Yeah, definitely, it being so wide and the track surface being so old and these corners seeming like they take forever to get through, it seems like you have to carry a lot of momentum through the corner, and coming off the corner, that can sometimes cause an issue because you're carrying so much momentum through the apex, and the track does just seem to narrow up, especially out of turn number 2. And we've seen a couple of drivers spinning off of turn number 2. Danny Rodgers, we saw him in the 0-2 just a few laps ago, spinning out of that corner. So I expect turn 2 to kind of be a calamity corner here because it is just so flat. There is Danny in that number 0-2 machine, and right in front of him is Lee Staples as these drivers are finishing up practice. Cameron, one name up there at the top is Will Warshler, and last week at Atlanta Motor Speedway we saw him make a mistake. He was one of the fastest guys out there, started on the pole up front, and on a restart he changed lanes a little bit too early, got a black flag, ended up a lap down, wasn't able to get that lap back. It was a mental error there early in the season, maybe just getting used to this ASRS series, and you make those mental mistakes, and what does it take to overcome something like that in round number 2? You got to get it out of your head.
Yeah, it's just something you have to put behind you. You know, it's race 2, it's a new week, it's a new race. Just gotta, you know, learn from your mistakes. Really, there's not much more to it than that. My mistake. But you know, like you said, it could be just you know, getting used to a new league, a new series, a new rule set, all that kind of stuff that just, you know, sometimes it just takes a race or 2 to figure out. But, you know, I do think he will have it figured out this week.
Yeah, in fact, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Will comes away with a pole again tonight. We, here at the ASRS Sim Marketing Solutions Cup Series, we have so many entries that we actually have to have a pre-qualifying session, and that pre-qualifying session happened about an hour ago, and Will Warshler up near the top of the charts in that session, so he qualified for the race tonight. Here he is top in practice, so definitely have to keep an eye on him. Kelsey Rogers currently second in practice. Great to see that number 35 machine out there turning times. You'll see no one currently on track as they go through a driver's meeting before this event tonight. I'm sure they're going over a couple things. And one of those new things to the ASRS series is open qualifying. It'll be a 10-minute session, which all the drivers will partake in here in about 3.5 minutes. Cameron, at this point, what does open qualifying mean to those people who are not quite familiar with the term open qualifying?
It's definitely a little bit different than normal. Obviously, you have to deal with other cars on the track as opposed to lone qualifying where it's just you. And for some drivers it hurts their pace. But a driver like Jared Mogard, he's currently P23 in practice right now. Last week's winner, it might help him a little bit get up the charts a little bit. But somebody like Will Wursler, of course, P1 in practice, he might not be able to get that lap time he's looking for. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, open qualifying is an interesting thing because the track temperature does vary over the practice session. And currently the track temperature is at 79 degrees Fahrenheit. The ambient temperature is 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So that track temperature might cool off a little bit as we go out through the night. But with these guys laying down rubber, the friction of the tires on the track tends to heat up the track a little bit. So there might be a little bit of strategy in open qualifying, whether these drivers want to go out first or whether they want to go out a little bit later, because they do have a limited amount of laps. Well, I say unlimited, but however many laps they can do in 10 minutes to try and get their best lap time. But it definitely will be interesting. There we go from the blimp cam. It's a beautiful night here in Kentucky, looking down on that 1.5 mile racetrack. And Cameron, this is a interesting track because of its shape. It seems to be shaped quite a bit differently than tracks like Kansas and Chicagoland, which they on paper look very similar, but they seem to race very differently. And it's not just because of the banking. It seems like at Kentucky the corners are so long. It's because it feels like you're in them forever. Maybe it's a little bit slower, but definitely means you have to race this track a little bit differently.
Yeah, we see in the blimp cam right there, it's almost a continuous curve from turn 4 all the way to turn 1. Actually, turn 3 to turn 2. My mistake there again. But yeah, the way you drive it, it's just there's really not much time that you're going straight on this track. And as opposed to a track like Chicagoland, which also you don't go straight very much, but from the aerial you would think you do here. It's a very interesting, unique track that we go to in this schedule.
Absolutely. And one other thing, we didn't really get to see at Atlanta because it doesn't really exist, but here at Kentucky, I expect to see a lot of drivers dipping down below that yellow line, cutting the corner through the tri-oval. There you can see that portion of the track, and that will definitely help in qualifying, cut a little bit of time out. But one thing that I've realized is cutting that little D tri-oval does save you a lot of time over a race. If you just save about 0.05 of a second over a 100-lap race, that's actually a lot of time. It does add up. And definitely, I'm sure we'll see a lot of drivers tending to do that tonight when they're not in the draft of another vehicle. But practice is winding down here, about 1 second left before we move over to the qualifying session. Will Wursler, top of the board in practice. Kelsey Rogers, second. He was only about 300ths off. Sam Maxwell was third. Brian Yazik is fourth. And Joe Burchett is fifth in the number 67. So the green flag is now out here for qualifying. These drivers will wrap up their drivers meeting and they'll head out onto the track. And there is Mitch Brown, the number 51 machine, the Sim Marketing Solutions car featuring the sponsor of the series.
We see some strategy already being played with him stopping to get a clear track. Our first car out on track right now is actually the 98 of Sam Maxwell. He got a pretty good jump on everybody, so we know what his strategy is for getting that lap out.
Yeah, definitely. There he is in that number 98 flaming machine. He's going to hit the stripe at 194 miles an hour. Nice and fast as he dives off into turn number 1. You can see him running that middle groove, Cameron. I think he's trying to avoid those bumps that are down there right on the apron that tend to upset the car as he gets a little bit squirrely out of the corner and now has to deal with traffic.
Yeah, and I think he might have hit the wall there out of turn 2, or he got very close. But another thing I want to mention here is just watch as he comes down to the tri-oval right here. You see how the grass is kind of not even there because that Legends oval really dips in, so you really have to make sure to not hit that grass because that will disqualify your lap in qualifying. Not so much an issue in the race, but definitely in this session.
Now, if you do get in the grass in the race, you will get a 1x incident point. And one thing in this league is there is an incident point cap of only 13 incidents. So if you get 13 incidents, and really you can get incidents multiple ways, 1 incident point for going through the grass, you get 2 for spinning, 4 with contact with another car, and so on and so forth. You get a total of 13 points. You'll actually be removed from the session. However, if you get through the race with 0 incident points, you actually get bonus points and an opportunity to win a steering wheel, which is a cool little raffle prize for these drivers. As you can see, Will Worsler has gone to the top of the board with a 30.508. Nice sporting lap by that number 29 machine. And look at Maxwell in that 98. We watched him turn his lap. There is Sam as he hits the wall coming out of turn number 2, hard into the inside wall. And I'm sure he'll be resetting that car and we'll have another go at it. But I think that's kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier there, Cam. It seems like off of turn number 2, the track might just tend to close up a little bit, and that wall is pretty unforgiving on the outside of the circuit. There's Michael Krobach in that number 72, inside the top 10 in qualifying currently. For the HPPsimulation.com machine, heading through turn number 2. And Cameron, we're seeing a couple of these drivers turn a couple laps here in qualifying. I think really you're going to get your best lap out, but I think I've seen a couple drivers do a few laps, Jim Foose being one of them, just going out there, maybe not hitting everything on their first lap, but those tires tend to wear pretty quickly and they scrub off quite a bit of speed.
Yeah, that's true. But one thing they do have going for them is the weather here. It is 77 degrees and the track is only at 79, so quite relatively cool for what these cars usually run in. So there is a small chance that you could get a better lap on your second lap, you know, maybe if you make a mistake or whatever. But yeah, you're right. Usually you will get that hot lap will come right out of the pits.
Troy Haight in the number 28 machine. He's just jumped into the top 5 for Hayter Racing. It's good to see them. And you're watching Alex Geese in the number 77 on track right now. That Trek Camaro, he is currently 3rd. Actually, he just moved up a spot, I think. Nope, he's still 3rd. He's actually tied on pace with Sam Maxwell, both running a 30.582. So my live timing and scoring having a little bit of trouble differentiating between those 2 identical lap times. I currently give that to Sam Maxwell with a very slender margin. As look at Alex running out there on the track. Getting a little bit squirrely out of turn number 4. It's going to be interesting to see, Cameron, how this race progresses. Last week, the track in Atlanta was very, very slick. And we saw a lot of drivers struggle as the run went on, especially with the high track temperatures. But like you said, this track's a lot cooler than it was last week. So hopefully these drivers will have a lot of grip and not as much tire wear as we saw at Atlanta. Of course, Atlanta is known for that sort of thing with its old track surface, but you said it, it's another old track surface tonight. So definitely one of the more difficult tracks on the schedule.
Yeah, one thing I want to make note of is just how close these times are. 1st to 35th only separated by about 0.5 of a second. That is a really small split for such a huge field, so that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, we will see 36 starters tonight, so that's it's a huge field for these drivers. I mean, it's absolutely great to see such a large field. As you see Kelsey Rogers in the number 35 rolling off pit road once again. He is just outside of the top 5, going to take another stab at the top. Good looking ride there. I really like Ty Hester's Hunt Brothers Pizza. I think he does a really good interpretation of the Hunt Brothers car. I'm not been the biggest fan of the Hunt Brothers cars that they've actually run in NASCAR, but I think that number 36 ride is a good-looking one as he hits the stripe this time to start his first time lap. We'll see what he can do, currently sitting down in the 14th position, driving off into turn number 1. Once again, running a little bit higher on the track. In fact, running a little bit higher than we saw Sam Maxwell did earlier, with Ty running that third groove up. There's Robert Hill in the Tonka machine. He's coming out of turn number 4. He'll put in his lap time this lap. In fact, he messaged me before the race, and Robert said that he only got a couple laps of practice in, but he currently sits in the 26th position. He said he was able to qualify for tonight's race by, quote-unquote, digging. And I think that's quite fitting for the Tonka truck, or Tonka car, I should say. Andy Veltman Racing Machine, coming through the tri-oval this time. So he'll start his time lap, trying to move up the table. Currently down in the 35th position, so that number 97 definitely wanting to move up. And Cameron, I think he's running really low on the track. I wonder if that's hurting his one lap speed. We'll have to see what his time is like this time.
Yeah, and another thing to make note of is for those drivers that have already qualified, you know, they got their laps in early without cars running on the track so much. But now, you know, we've had all the cars run laps on the track. It's quite a bit hotter than it was, or you know, there's rubber all over the track now, and that does make it a little bit harder to get a fast lap in at this stage of qualifying.
Yeah, at the beginning of this session, I checked the track temperature, and the track temperature was the same as the ambient temperature at 77 degrees Fahrenheit. With the rubber that these drivers are laying down, it's now at 79 degrees Fahrenheit. And that doesn't sound like a big difference, 2 degrees. But in the iRacing service, 2 degrees is quite a bit, and it can definitely affect the way the cars drive. I know I've been practicing for the Daytona 24, and just a few degrees difference on the Daytona road course is a huge difference. Been basically noticing my times throughout the week vary quite a bit depending on what room I'm in. So that's kind of a strategy call for the drivers to come out early. Here's Tim Knott. He has not put a great lap time in. He's put a 31.019, although he improves this time. He's now moved up to a 30.86, so definitely an improvement for that number 40. He was previously the slowest qualifier, but good to see him move up. And also good to see a 3-wide TV logo on the back of that number 41 kart. And there is Alan Young. He's headed to pit road. There is Tim Knott, also headed to pit road. 2 little different strategies to get onto pit road there. One person running the in-road and the other person just jumping straight off. In fact, you don't have to use that in-road. You can just jump straight off the track once they get to the race. There is the number 9 machine, Brandon Stokes. He's going to head off into turn number 1, just got around Alex East in that 77. Traffic kind of playing into the hands of some of these drivers if they can get a good draft. Others not so much, as we have only 20 seconds now left in qualifying. Will Worsler still is up top. He is actually out on track though. He tried to make a better lap time. He was just in front of the number 9 of Stokes, but that number 29 machine's not going to improve his lap. And I think that is just about going to wrap things up for the open qualifying session. I really like the open qualifying session. It gives us something to commentate. Everyone here can follow along with the times on the left-hand side of the screen, see where everyone's qualifying, see people move up, see people move down. It makes for an exciting qualifying session, as these drivers will soon be gridding up. A few couple drivers still out there on track trying to get their last few seconds of practice in. Cameron, I've noticed that is one interesting thing about open qualifying session is a couple of people go out there, they turn a few good laps early, and then they kind of just treat it as another practice session.
Yeah, it's actually a good way to do that, because especially with open qualifying versus lone qualifying, it almost acts as like a race practice, since you have so many cars on track, and you know, there's never enough practice you can get for any race.
Yeah, absolutely. That getting those few extra seconds of practice can make all the difference. If you find a little line that you weren't running before, but you pick up a little bit of speed, it can definitely help you on your journey to the front. Well, these guys, as you will see in just a second, they're starting to grid up. There's Alex. He's in that number 77. He's starting near the front. Cameron, I think it's about time to take him through the field.
All right, starting on the pole, we have the number 29 of Will Worsler, and to his outside, the number 98 of Sam Maxwell.
Starting on row number 2, it's the 77 of Alex Geese and the 44 of, the 28 of Troy.
Row number 3, we got Jared Haggerty in that beautiful 6 car, and to his outside, Kelsey Rogers in the 34.
In the 7th position is Mitch Brown in the number 51, and alongside him, Travis Rucker in the 83.
Brandon Stokes starts P9, and to his outside, Joe Burchett in the 67 machine.
On row number 6 is Alan Young and Kaz Bedford in the 9.
Danny Rogers starts P13, the heartbreak story from last week, and to his outside, Evan Black in the 92.
Starting in the 15th position, Nick Curling, and alongside him is Scott Smith.
Ty Hester starts P17, and to his outside, Mark Whitley in the 37 car.
Behind him is Michael Krobach, and alongside him is Corey Silva.
Blackjack position P21 is Lee Staples and Jared Mogard to his outside.
Alexander Pelican, with a great run at Landmark Speedway, starts 23rd, and alongside him is Brad Cross.
In the 25th spot, we got Tyler Seville, and to his outside, Clarence Bonner.
Jimmy McKee and Robert Hill Jr. make up row 14.
Jason Stewart in the 1 car is starting P29, and Brian Yazdick in the 55 car to his outside.
Starting 31st is Josh Walker, 32nd, Tim Knott.
Position number 33, we got Richard Stallings and Steve Bahala to his outside.
Starting in the last row of the grid, Jim Foose and Andy Veltman. And actually rounding out the field will be Jordan Pauly. We'll have 37 starters here tonight, but it will be 29 of Will Worsler picking up his second pole in only the second race of the season. So definitely everyone eyeing that number 29, as a hot shot out there in qualifying. And alongside him, great qualifying by Sam Maxwell in that 98. We saw him have a really interesting race last week, but the pace car has pulled off here at Kentucky Speedway. We'll put it in the hands of the flagman as Will Worsler will wait for that green flag. And the green flag now up in the air. We're racing here in the Bluegrass State. Great start by Will Worsler. I think he might be able to clear Sam Maxwell as they head off into turn number 1. Already 3 wide. A little bit further back, Kelsey Rogers was put 3 wide, but he's now going to get back down to the inside right in front of him. They're side by side. Troy Haight on the outside and Mitch Brown. We'll have to see how this race starts to pan out, what lines people start to use, because you mentioned it, Cameron, this is a track people can go everywhere, as we're pretty much side by side from about 5th place on back.
Yeah, they've lined up at the front. I think that is the preferred line right now, but there's a gaggle of cars behind them. We're 3 wide all over the track, so it's we haven't figured out what line to run back there.
Yeah, they're about 3 wide back for a battle for 17th or so. Jared Mogard, last week's winner, involved in that 3 wide, although they've sorted it out and back to 2 wide. But look at this action up near the front, just ahead of these guys. Is there now side-by-side battle for the 4th position. Alex Geese on the outside and the number 28 of Troy Haight on his inside. Of course, Hayter Racing leading this race with Will Worsler, and Troy Haight now moving into the 4th position. So that team having a really good start as we're side-by-side battle for 2nd. Sam Maxwell to the outside, and there is Jared Haggerty he's digging for that position. Started in 5th, already up to 3rd, and he's going to try and get around Sam Maxwell, but that 98 holding tough on the outside.
Yeah, and we saw him push up quite a bit there. I thought that the 28 of Haight was going to make a move there and take advantage of that, but just so hard to make that move on the bottom. There's not much grip down.
Yeah, we're already starting to see some big movers throughout the field. Brian Yazik was one who I thought would have a better qualifying position. He's already up 5 positions up to 25th. And also Jared Mogard, last week's winner, he's up 8 positions already, and we're just now completing lap number 4. So 2 positions a lap for Mogard, and that's pretty impressive here.
Yeah, we see this battle for second still raging on. Haggerty cannot clear the 98 of Maxwell, as actually he does, as I say that. But really, that's a tough place to make that move. It's like we said, it's so hard to stick down the bottom. It's just so bumpy down there, and so hard to make that move stick.
Yeah, absolutely. You're looking out the back of Haggerty in that number 6 machine. And there's a side-by-side battle not too far behind him. Kelsey Rogers now to the inside of Troy Haight. So it's been really interesting. We've seen a lot of battling up near the front. We said Troy Haight, he moved up into the 4th position, but now he's slid back into the 6th position. So everything kind of shuffling up near the front as Mitch Brown now moves up into the 3rd position ahead of Sam Maxwell. But Will Warsler is using that clean air to his advantage, and he's kind of checked out to about a 7/10 of a second lead here early on. There he is. And the distance back to Jared Haggerty, but now we'll see what Haggerty in that number 6 can do.
That 51 of Brown is all over the back of Haggerty right now. But the 98 of Maxwell, if you're him, you know, he's lost a couple spots now, but he's got to remember that it's a long race, and you know, you can get those spots back later. Just can't get too overzealous to not lose too much time right now.
Well, the most interesting thing, well, one of the most interesting things about the race last week at Atlanta Motor Speedway was Sam Maxwell. He was driving a modified, had no front end on that number 98 machine, and was able to race it up inside the top 5. As you can see, last week's winner, Jared Mogard, he's moved up into the top 10. He's up to the 9th position, Cameron. He's absolutely flying through this field. Last time by, he was definitely one of the fastest drivers on the track, ran a 31.31, compare that to Will Warsler's 31.392. So definitely that double zero's got speed again tonight.
Yeah, definitely the biggest mover right now. You know, it's going to get tougher to pass cars as it gets closer to the front, but I do think he will be a factor before really too long. He really is flying.
It's a long race. It's 100 laps. Definitely some of these drivers probably already thinking about conserving their tires with a track as wide as the Kentucky Speedway. You know, you do sometimes tend to get some long green flag runs, so I wouldn't be at all surprised to see some of these drivers as we have a side-by-side battle for second. Mitch Brown underneath his teammate Jared Haggerty. They are toe-to-toe with one another through the corner. Haggerty running that high line. He's going to get a good run up off the corner. But Mitch Brown definitely making some noise up there. He's up 4 spots from where he started. Started P7 in that number 51. And getting a little bit better drive down there on the inside line. But the number 6 holding tough as they get really close coming out of turn number 4.
Don't look too far back because there's Jared Mogard. He's about to be in the top 5. Just made that move past Kelsey Rogers. Actually, not quite yet. But that's pretty close. Pretty close off turn number 2.
And we have a caution out on the speedway. Not quite sure where it's at.
It's like the 11 has had an issue over here.
Yeah, Tyler Seville. He, ooh, definitely a little bit of contact. You saw Robert Hill in the Tonka car. He was sliding. Did a good job saving that machine. Let's see if we can diagnose what happened here as they head off into turn number 1. You're watching Robert Hill in that Tonka machine. Oh, a little bit of contact there. But I think Josh Walker in that 58 might have been a bit of neck code. It kind of looks like he got really loose really quickly.
Yeah, they looked like pretty big netcode there. There was about a car width between those two cars that made contact.
Oh, I see. He got into the
checkup.
back. Yeah, he got into the back of the 90 there of Kaz Bedford, and it sounded like it shot his car straight to the outside. So those are two drivers that will have damage, a couple of drivers with damage, as Will Worsler will head down pit road. But those drivers with damage, I'm sure they will definitely get that damage fixed here. But luckily to see, no one with any major terminal damage here as we're early in the race. There is Will Worsler. He'll lead him down. He has the best pit box. He's got that first pit box on pit road. And you'll have Sam Maxwell right behind him. Those drivers hitting their marks right now. It's so important to hit your marks in a race like this with 36 drivers in the field. Not hitting your marks could be absolutely disastrous.
Absolutely. That can be the difference between coming out, you know, second off pit road and 20th. So you really want to make sure that you get that.
Well, Will Worsler does use that first pit stall, excuse me, to his full advantage, and he will lead them off pit road. So right behind him is Mitch Brown and Jared Haggerty third. So no major changes up near the front as the rest of the field files off pit road. Definitely good to see those drivers making it down pit road, and I'm sure the drivers getting some of that damage repaired. I'm going to take a quick peek at pit lane because I'm sure there'll be a few still on pit road getting some of that damage repaired from that first accident. But definitely,
this track is quite. You know, we were talking about how Sam Maxwell ran last week's race as a modified, but you know, that you would think is a lot more aero sensitive than Kentucky Speedway because it's a lot faster. But you know, this track is very sensitive to damage. You know, you can get that right side banged up a little bit and the car just won't drive anymore. So it's going to be really important for those drivers to get everything they can fixed.
Yep, and if you have some right front damage on a track like Kentucky Motor Speedway, it tends to make your car really, really tight. And if you have a car that's already tight up out of turn number 2, because the track just kind of narrows there, it can make life really difficult. Pace car lights are off, though, so we'll be getting back to green flag racing. Good to see a short caution. I definitely like when iRacing gives you short cautions. I was in a race last night at Talladega Motor Speedway and felt like we were forever under the yellow flag. I think each yellow flag was like 6 or 7 minutes long. It was ridiculous, but thank you, iRacing, for the short caution here tonight, as we'll get back to green flag racing shortly. You know, one thing that is different here in ASRS, Cameron, is the fact that on a restart, the leader can go when he wants to, but at the start of the race, he actually has to go on the green flag. Will Worsler fell victim to that, got a warning last week, but the green flag is going to be in the hands of Will Worsler, and he's already underway. Gets a great restart, and he's going to zip away from the field. Definitely getting a good restart, and Jared Haggerty is going to move up into the second position, looks like here. But all these drivers hugging that yellow line here on the restart. And look at Jared Mogard already up into the 4th position. And he started back in 22nd, ladies and gentlemen, moving all the way up through the field. Great run for him, and now they're side-by-side right behind them. Danny Rogers in that 02 machine, a little bit different looking machine from last week. He was kind of the heartbreak story, running out of fuel with about 5 laps to go. But now he's in the top 5, so we're starting to see some of the players from last week up at the front yet again. There's some side-by-side a little bit further back. Troy Haight in that number 28 machine, side-by-side with Joe Burchett in that number 67. As up front, look at the 00 of Mogard going once again. He's now underneath Mitch Brown. Cameron, I'm just so impressed with the 00.
Yeah, he's definitely taking no prisoners tonight. He's gonna clear the 51 of Mitch Brown off turn 2 here. Actually, no, he's not. Yes, he is. It's just so hard to know when that move is gonna stick. You know, as a driver myself, just, you know, you never know. He's gonna go for second here pretty quick. He's all over the back of Haggerty's car.
Yeah, we said that he was one of the fastest cars after a couple laps on that last run. coming from way back in the pack, now up into the 3rd position. He definitely has speed in that 00 as Mitch Brown and Danny Rogers battle side by side for the 4th position. Give that spot to Mitch, but Jared is just looking for that 2nd position in the 00 as, man, right up on the back bumper of Jared Haggerty. Might get Haggerty a little bit looser if he can stay that close up, give him a little bit of aero loose behavior. As, man, Mitch Brown and Danny Rogers, those two still battling for that position as Sam Maxwell's going to peek his nose to the high line. Might be important to get some clean air on the nose of these cars every once in a while, just to add a little bit of downforce to the front end of that vehicle. But definitely these drivers also preferring that middle groove a little bit. Cameron, one thing about running Kentucky on the low line is that low line right on the yellow line tends to get looser as the run goes on. It feels, especially if you have already a little bit of loose handling car, I think you're starting to see those drivers push up a little bit in the corners to run that higher line because of that fact.
Yeah, and we see the 00 Mogard. He could not get his nose under Haggerty, and he just said, you know what, I'm going to go to the outside here. He drove to the outside in turns 1 and 2. Couldn't get the move stick, but I think he's going to get it here off turn number 4. That momentum off the high side is going to help him.
Yeah, watch that 00, that running that little bit higher line, keeping that momentum up, a little bit larger radius around these corners allows you to carry a little bit more speed through them, as I think he's going to make the move here, but Haggerty definitely holding tough on the inside, but give the 2nd spot to Mogard as he now has to set sights on the 29 of Will Worschler. Worschler leading every lap so far in this race, but knock knock, the 00 is coming.
And I have to wonder if Worschler has been saving his stuff a little bit, because he jumped out to a huge lead on the first or the initial start of the race, but has not really done that yet. I wonder if he's waiting for the 00 Mogard to burn his stuff up and, you know, just kind of save his tires a little bit. But you know, we're about to have a battle for the lead.
Yeah, you see that Will Worschler looks like he has a little bit larger arc into the corner. That does help to save tires usually. But, you know, if we get another short run, it's going to be all for naught. As look at Mogard close right up under the braking zone, or at least where they start to roll out of the gas. And he is closing ever so quickly. I'm looking up and down the field at lap times, but everyone very close on lap times currently through the field. Definitely starting to see a little bit of fall off. These drivers are already about 6/10 slower than their best lap. And we're just a couple laps into this green flag run. But here comes Mogard, the 00, sniffing that race lead underneath Will Worschler now. They're side by side coming out of turn number 2. Worschler doesn't want to give up this lead. He's led every lap so far. But Mogard's come from 22nd on the grid. They get tight in turn number 3. Worschler had to move up just a little bit on the track, and I think that's going to give Mogard the advantage, as no one really, I didn't foresee this, but now Jared Mogard is your race leader at lap number 25, and he led that last lap, so give him bonus points for leading a lap, as this field now starting to spread out quite a bit throughout the field. As we're almost 3 wide down the backstretch. That's the number 16, Alexander Pelican, in that sun drop machine. Had a great run last week at Atlanta Motor Speedway, running up near the top 5, especially near the end. Just kept that 16 nice and clean. They're side by side right behind him, Scott Smith and Nick Curling. Nick Curling in the Mobil 1 machine, a really sporting looking car. A little bit further ahead. Oh, we jump back to this action as they're still side by side. Look at the 91 Jordan Pauly dropping down. He started shotgun on this field. He's just a little bit out of this picture. He's moved up nice. As, oh, look at this 3 wide. I think, oh, we got one car. That's Alex Geese going through the grass. He's going to save it. Fantastic save. I think he's got some right front damage. And, yep, that turn 4 wall, Cameron, it can bite you.
As a driver, you know, the track is so wide, and it's so deceptive that you just want to use up all that room, and then it runs away quickly. And I think that's what we saw there. He just kind of smacked that wall, and once you do that, it's game over for that. Great job saving it. You know, that's really a hard. Usually ends up in a DNF when you do that, but so great job by him.
Looking ahead, this is on board with Corey Silva. It's a absolute scrap for the top 10 position. We're 3 wide down the backstretch. Corey Silva on the inside line. Michael Krobach just had a picture in the 72. He was actually 3 wide there for a second. Wisely backs out of it. But Evan Black and Corey Silva going side by side. Those two teammates battling for the position. And Michael Krobach, he's in the 14th position. He started in 19th, so he's up 5 position. Ryan Yazik just behind this battle. He's in the 55, and he's moved up 14 positions from where he started. So definitely starting to see those HPP performance machines coming up through this field. And, wow, just battles kind of everywhere on track. Oh, man, look at this. Will Worsler is actually fallen off a little bit. He's fallen to the 5th position in that 29 machine. Maybe the opposite was true, Cameron. Maybe the 29 burned up his stuff.
Yeah, I actually did not see what happened there. I don't know if he got a little bit loose and shoved up out of the groove or what, but that's definitely not what he's looking for. But, you know, even if you are Will Worsler and have had this issue at the start of the race, or really not the start, but as where we are now, you just have to tell yourself, you know, it's still a long race. We still have 70 or so laps to go, and he can definitely make up that time again and, you know, do well at the remainder of this race.
And sometimes you just overheat your tires a little bit. Oh, the 83 of Travis Rucker scraping the wall in turn number 1 and 2. Looks like he got a little bit loose. He was right up behind Krobach in the 72 and just kissed that wall just a little bit. Don't see any major damage on that number 83 machine, so he'll be able to continue on with Brian Yazik right behind him. That's going to be a battle for the 15th position when Yazik is able to catch him. A little bit further back now, Tim Knott in the 41, focusing on him. He's down in the 29th position, but look at this. He's back in 29th, and there's battles all the way back there, and it's great to see everyone fanning out in the corners, just trying to search for a little bit of cleaner air and a little bit of grip.
And the battle for the lead has heated up at the front. Brown and Rogers have both caught Mogard, with Danny Maxwell not too far behind.
Yeah, that race lead now down to only about 0.2 of a second. So those two drivers that you mentioned, Mitch Brown, Danny Rogers, looking to close in. Ooh, looks like Mitch Brown got a little bit loose coming out of turn number 2. So maybe we're starting to see a little bit of rear tire wear on these cars start to loosen them up a little bit. As there is Danny Rogers looking a little bit low on Mitch and trying to get a little bit of clean air on the nose. I keep saying clean air on the nose, but clean air is so important, especially in tracks like this where downforce is so important. You're relying on that downforce to get through the corner as everyone will race down the backstretch. Look at your top 5. Mogard, Brown, Rogers, Maxwell, Rogers as they race by. And the remainder of the field passing by. It's a great track cam. Got to give a shout out to everyone at SimTV for their awesome track cams that they give us. They definitely make for a very good presentation. Go check them out, SimTV, if you're looking for track cams, because they do some great stuff. As there is Kelsey Rogers in that number 35 machine, trying to make his way to the front. He's kind of hovered around this top 5, Cameron, the whole race, but doesn't seem to have been able to break into the top 5. But I've been noticing he's been really fast. In fact, he's been faster than the race leader in over the past few laps. So I think he's kind of done the opposite of Will Worsler. I think he's saved his tires a little bit, and some of these guys in front of him burning off their tires a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. You know, that actually does work quite well here. We do see the trains or so at this track. It looks a lot like, you know, when you see at Talladega or Daytona, the long trains. Most of the field has actually gotten single file. We are in the better half of 20 laps into this run. But yeah, definitely saving your tires on a track like this can help you so much in the long run. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he is doing.
Looking a little bit further back, this is a battle for around the 15th position. It's Alan Young. He's in the 11th position. Right underneath him is Corey Silva. And those two drivers give the 11th position to Corey Silva now in the 94. Looking out the back of that machine, straight into the eyes of Mr. Alan Young. And right behind them is Michael Krobach in the 72. He's kind of been hovering around that position now for a while, keeping that 72 car nice and clean. Definitely like the number 24's paint scheme that Federated Auto Parts. Kind of reminiscent of paint scheme that you used to see Kenny Schrader run a lot, but I definitely like his paint scheme. I think it's definitely got some nice flair to it. It runs with those Camaro lines very well. Camaro is a really good looking car. In fact, personally, I think it's this year in NASCAR going to be the best looking car out of all of them. Sorry, Mustang. Sorry, Camry, but
yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one, Peter. That Camaro is a mean-looking race car, definitely.
The HPP simulation cars going at it right there. Yazik underneath Krobach. So Yazik definitely starting to make some noise and move towards the... You're actually not missing much up near the front. The same running order is holding station currently. I got to do some practice laps here earlier and looked at a fuel run. So a fuel run with these cars is about 60 laps or so. So I expect to see these drivers go to about 80 laps on a tank of fuel if they dare go that long. As here comes Kelsey Rogers underneath the 98 of Sam Maxwell. That's a side-by-side battle for the 4th position. But I think that high line is going to prevail here. Everyone tends to be running that same second groove currently. Ooh, Sam Maxwell clipped the apron going through the tri-oval. Looked like it got the 98 a little bit loose. That's definitely something we haven't seen here tonight, is that apron come into play. Someone was getting into the wall back there. I think it might have been Evan Black. Just scraping the wall coming out of turn number 2. As he's got his teammate right in front of him, side by side, right behind him. That's a battle for the 13th position. Brian Yazik, like I said, starting to make that noise. Moved up into the 13th position with that move. Actually, excuse me, the 12th position with that move over Allen. So he's moved up a couple spots here in the last few laps. Next man in front of him will be Evan Black.
Started in 30th, so speaking of big movers, I think he would be one of the bigger ones of the race now.
Yeah, currently Jared Mogard is your biggest mover of the race, but your second biggest mover, like you said, is Brian Yazik with plus 18 spot. But definitely he's the 00 not able to get away up at the front. As we're nearing halfway in this race, the track has descended into full darkness now, and the ambient temperature staying about the same, 77 degrees Fahrenheit, but the track temperature with all these cars on track and all the rubber and friction in the corners, the track temperature now at 82 degrees Fahrenheit. It's kind of fun to watch that dynamic track state vary over a run. It does actually cool off during a caution flag a little bit. So right on board with Kelsey Rogers in that 35. It's a good looking machine.
And as we ride on board with him, you can just see how bumpy this track is. Those cars are wobbling all over the place, just navigating the bumps. You know, you can feel that as a driver, and it really kind of, I don't want to say it hurts the way you drive the car, but you can, it definitely makes a difference because you can feel that the car, it's almost like wallowing, not, it swells in the track.
Yeah, especially, even when you're going down the backstretch, but especially when you're in the corner and the car is fully loaded, all the suspension's fully loaded up, and you just hit those bumps, and it kind of feels like the car just wants to skip across the track, and then once you get that rebound, it just kind of wallows. There's a great train of cars. Will Warshler is closed back in. He's in the 6th position, but he's caught the top 5 again. We really have a 6-way battle for the race lead here. No one really wanting to duck out and make a move. Everyone's kind of holding steady with that second groove on the track. As Will Warshler, he's actually running a little bit lower on the track. It's kind of an interesting line as we look out in the back of Jared Mogard. It'd be interesting to see if what Will Warshler did last time by, if he does it again this lap. He's at the back of this train in that number 29 machine. Second time I've done that tonight. But he definitely ran an interesting line in turn number 4 that last time. He ran much lower than everyone else. This lap, he's right behind everyone else, so maybe he just got a little bit loose as he's looking underneath Kelsey Rogers. Nope. Kelsey shuts the door, so.
And this train of cars has gapped the second train by about 2 seconds. The leader of that second train, of course, being the 6 of Jared Haggerty. But something to note with the fixed setups you run. You know, if you're a driver behind Mogard in that train behind them, you know, something you see with this type of racing, it's just he's going to be running in the ideal line where that setup is going to run best, and it's just so hard to get around him. You have to find a way to get around him when he's running in the ideal line. So whether that's make him make a mistake or just, you know, just find a faster way, you know, it's they're doing a good job keeping up with him, though. He hasn't been able to get more than about 0.5 of a second of a lead this whole entire run.
Yeah, Mitch Brown definitely trying his best to do that. One thing to note, a little bit further back in the pack, Robert Hill, he hit the wall a couple laps ago, and he has dropped a couple spots. So I think that number 95 machine might have some right side damage. And you see he continues to bleed spots as the number 1 of Jason Stewart to his outside, and right behind him, Tyler Seville in that number 11. So kind of tough luck there for Robert Hill. So he focused back up on the front. But yeah, you're definitely right, Cameron. It's hard to get that move for the race lead when everyone's running the same line. You either got to try something different. Definitely one of my favorite things to do is try and save tires when you're in that spot, because you and I know making a pass when you have a little bit better tires, it makes things a lot easier, especially on a track like this. As we have reached the halfway mark in this race. Jared Mogard
stops.
And Jared Mogard has led the most laps so far, but we have a couple drivers thinking about hitting pit road here.
36 of Ty Hester ducked down on pit road. I'm not sure if that's strategy or had something wrong with the car there.
Yeah, that J. Foose Motorsports machine, he gets going again in the 36. So that's definitely an interesting call right at halfway. We're just now about 33 laps into the run. So that is basically splitting a tank of fuel in half. But he now can make it to the end from this point on fuel. So unless we get a caution, I expect to see Ty Hester stay out. But Cameron, I was kind of expecting these drivers to possibly wait another 7-8 laps or so, kind of splitting the final run in half until we started to see cars come down pit road. But that is definitely the pit window now that is officially open, and you can make it to the end from here. I'm sure some drivers will start to think about pitting quite soon.
Yeah, but I know Ty Hester's feeling good about it because he's got those 4 fresh tires and he's flying through the field right now. Definitely short pitting can work at a lot of tracks. Sometimes it will hurt you just, you know, after the whole field cycles through and that advantage is gone and even nullified. But you know, he's so much quicker than all these cars around him, so he's definitely making up time on track right now.
Yeah, you see him as he dives to the inside of a couple of drivers there. Lee Staples, one of those, along with Clarence Bonner in the 99. Those two drivers kind of keeping things nice and clean a little bit further back in the pack. But Yep, Ty Hester running a 31.079 that last lap. You compare that to what Jared Mogard ran last lap up near the front, which is a 32.9 second lap. That's about 2 seconds a lap faster with those fresh tires. So, you know, it could play out to his advantage. We'll just have to wait and see. There's Brian Yazik in the 55. He's moving up as, oh, we got the 51 of Mitch Brown on pit road. Right behind him is Sam Maxwell in the 98. So some of your front runners, they've seen what fresh tires can do for Ty Hester. They're now diving down, everyone getting down to pit road speed. 50 miles an hour. And there is Mitch Brown in the 51. I got to say, good job by both of those drivers to hit pit road at the same time without colliding. They definitely took a last-minute lunge down there. As Sam Maxwell, oh, did he slide through his pit box? Don't think he did. Just barely made it. There's Mitch Brown. That crew going to work on the left sides now. Jared Mogard on pit road. Right behind him is... that was the 35 of Kelsey Rogers going a little bit wide. But we'll have to see. Mogard and, oh, Mitch Brown, he must be caught speeding. He must have a black flag here. He had a 30-second stop. That's going to be absolute killer for that number 51 machine.
And the 35 of Rogers, he was all sorts of sideways coming in pit road. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a speeding penalty. They're jacking up the left side now. Let's see if he gets held. No, so that's good for him. But definitely a very interesting entry to the pits for him.
Yeah, he was well off the screen. I thought that he would definitely be getting some kind of black flag, but looks like the iRacing officials are being kind to him, as there is a 29 Will Worsler hitting pit road. But that gives the race lead to Brian Yazik in the 55, at least briefly before he hits pit road. He's definitely been slowly moving up the field, so we'll have to see how things shake out. Of course, we're in the middle of a pit cycle here. Troy Haight, one of those still out on track in the 28. He's currently leading over Michael Krobach, but Krobach is right to his outside, and they have some faster traffic to their inside now. It's something that's a little bit tricky when you're on older tires, is having to deal with the faster traffic around you. But Haight is running that higher groove, and it's going to let the number 98 by of Sam Maxwell.
Maxwell has actually cycled out in front of Mogard in that pit cycle. He's about a second and a half in front of him.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Those two drivers both well, now they're both on the backstretch, but Sam Maxwell has about a half straightaway advantage over Mogard, so that crew doing a great job on pit road. But Troy Haight staying out. One thing to note, though, is now Sam Maxwell and Mogard back on the lead lap. So the longer Haight stays out, the more he hopes for caution here, because he could assume the race lead. But definitely we're in a long green flag run. Great to see this. We saw this last week at Atlanta Motor Speedway. The long green flag runs here in the American Sim Racing Series. Hopefully that's something we can keep on going throughout the season. I love getting to see these long green flag runs, because definitely you get to see that strategy on screen play out. As Troy Haight, speaking of strategy, he's decided, oh no, he has locked up the rear tires, and that number 28 machine now sideways on pit road backing up, and that is just an absolute disaster for Troy Haight.
Yeah, that's something that you have to watch out for, especially with he's got what, 50-something lap-old tires, and you know by that time those tires are just cooked and they don't have much life left in them. Especially with the way this pit entry is actually very tough. It's very tight and quite off-kilter compared to the rest of the track.
And here is Michael Krobach. You see him stepping out that back end of that number 72 machine. He had about 47 laps on his tires. He's finally said, giving up the ghost and headed to pit road. So that's going to give the race lead now to Mark Whitley. He's got about, thinking about it, he's got maybe 12 or so laps left of fuel. So he could run this down to about 26 laps to go. But at that point, you're not going to have enough time to use your 4 fresh tires to their advantage. So I think the 37, if he doesn't pit here pretty soon, his only real shot is if he gets a yellow flag. There's just a point at which you just don't have enough time to make good use of fresh tires. So looking at this battle, which if everything cycles out, this would be the battle for race leads. Sam Maxwell and Jared Mogard, those two drivers. It looks like Mogard's closing in a little bit on Sam Maxwell. Mogard about a 10th.5 faster last time. We'll see what the split is at the line this time. Sam Maxwell with 31.6 to Mogard's 31.38, so about 3/10 faster. And Mogard has 1 lap fresher tires, so maybe that 1 lap fresher tires has already got a little bit of an advantage, Cameron.
Yeah, we see the difference between 1 lap fresher tires and that 1 lap of pit cycle. Definitely, it's going to help Mogard later on in this run, but that gap that Maxwell was able to accrue, you know, helped him get about there's a 2-second lead or so. So definitely, it should start equalizing out right now, all things considered. But Mogard has been very quick all race, so I do think he will probably have the upper hand.
Kelsey Rogers in the number 35 machine. He's just a little bit further behind Mogard. He pitted on the same lap as Mogard, and we thought he might get a black flag, but he's still out there turning laps, so I'm guessing no harm, no foul, according to the iRacing officials. And so he is in a spot for a good finish here tonight. As we look a little bit further back behind the 35 is Joe Burchett. He's had a great run tonight, kind of been quiet, but he's made his run now up towards the top 5 in the number 67. And definitely thinking that Joe Burchett's in line for a good finish as well, as this battle for the race lead starting to heat up now. You got the flames on the number 98. But definitely that's not the reason for the heat up at the front. It's Jared Mogard in that number 00 already on the back, as we still have 34 laps to go. But Mogard definitely breathing down the back.
And Mogard's definitely going to want to get around Maxwell as soon as he can, because he knows that as long as he drives behind the 98, he might just burn up his tires trying to get around him, and might not be able to get that opportunity as this race gets closer to the end.
Definitely, of course, still up at the front. We now have Clarence Bonner, who is the it's still Mark Whitley in the 37. My live timing and scoring blinking there for a second, but there is Clarence Bonner in the number 99. He's finally peeling down, come down pit road, but Mark Whitley in the number 37 staying out there. And he's got to be very close on running out of fuel. Oh, Mark Whitley, as we have a battle for the race lead. I was just about to say, Mark Whitley's out of fuel, it looks like. But Jared Mogard has got around Sam Maxwell on the middle of your screen there. So put Maxwell up to the front. There is the 37 of Whitley. Looks like he ran it completely dry. He was on the apron going down the back stretch. But Mogard in the 00 has asserted himself back up front here with 32 laps to go at the Kentucky Speedway. Very impressive drive once again, Cameron.
Yeah, and we see the 58 of Josh Walker here. He's actually a lap down to the leaders, just using those fresh tires. He's going to want to get around Mogard as soon as possible, so he's not a factor in this battle. But Mogard is about 2 to 3/10 quicker a lap than Maxwell at this point. I think those newer tires are just kind of helping him with that at this point.
Definitely, and if you look just to the center of your screen is the number 35, and that is Kelsey Rogers, just hanging in there for another run here, and just really been kind of quiet, hanging around the top 5. Great pit stop, used the entire pit lane to their advantage, and up there now in the top 3 on track. Everyone has made a pit stop at this point. One person to note, Will Worsler. His woes continue. Got a black flag last week at Atlanta Motor Speedway. This week having pit road issues, and that number 29 is now down in the 25th position after starting on pole. So tough break for Will. As you see a side-by-side battle here, that is the 0-2 Danny Rogers getting underneath Joe Burchett. I think there is a slight difference on laps on their tires. Danny Rogers has 1 lap fewer on his tires, so I think that's definitely, it appears that 1 lap does make a fairly sizable difference, Cameron, as Brian Yazik has closed into the 6th position. In fact, he was one of the last drivers to pit in that number 55, so definitely an impressive run by Brian to actually get some positions out of that pit cycle, even though he was one of the last guys to pit.
Yeah, he's definitely going to want to make those fresher tires work. So we have a battle here. 72 of Mitchell Trobrook and 16 Alexander Pelican. That 16 car is a really nice looking car. I love it. So those colors are just amazing. But you were talking about Will Wursler, how that mistake last week effectively, you know, compromised his race a lot. Just again this week, I went back and watched his pit entry, and he was about 70 on pit entry. So I think he got speeding there. Just gotta, you know, those mistakes will kill you, and we saw it again tonight with the 29.
And now he's back in some pretty heavy traffic, but he's got some spots to pick up in that gaggle of cars. Right in front of him is Tyler Seville and Lee Staples. That's the and Jim Foose in front of that. So that's 21st, 22nd, 23rd, all right in front of him. So, you know, last week he was battling for a top 20 at the end of the race. Here it looks like possibly much of the same here tonight. He's about 21.7 seconds off the race lead. So there's no real way he's going to make that up unless we have a caution flag here tonight. But 25 laps to go in this one. And Mogert has about a half-second lead. Still holding station in second is Sam Maxwell. About another second back is Kelsey, or half-second back, excuse me, is Kelsey Rogers. So nothing really changing up at the front. But definitely another great race here at Kentucky. Let's see who else we can pick up through the field.
The last time by, Maxwell was about a 10th quicker than Mogard, so you know, don't count him out just yet. We do have some lap traffic in front of the leader right now. We'll see if that comes into play. Just a few cars. It's pretty. The whole field is pretty spread out right now. It definitely has the look of a green race, so I can't say I'd expect a caution to come out, but I have been wrong before on quite a few occasions, actually.
So Ty Hester, we saw him be the first man on pit road. He's now in the 10th position. Last lap, he ran a 32.643 second lap. And right behind him, Alan Young, he's about a half-second faster. So we'll have to see if things work out for that number 36, as this is the battle for the 11th position right behind him. That's Michael Krobach going by Alan Young. That's for the 11th position. And Krobach, his next man in front of him is Ty Hester, and there's actually a pretty sizable time per lap difference. Krobach about 0.6 of a second faster than Hester. So it'll probably be, you know, about 3 or 4 laps, and Krobach will be closing in on that 36.
And Hester actually was in 17th before he pitted, so that's 7 spots gained just by that short pitting cycle. So, you know, we'll see if he can hold on to. He does have a lot of fast cars behind him that are going to want to get around him. So we'll see if he can hold up that train of cars.
Joe Burchett, he in that number 67 machine, he's battling it out with Corey Silver. We've seen these drivers kind of go at it here for few laps for that 6th position, but Corey Silva able to make that move into the 6th position. Silva has Brian Yazik in the 5th place, a couple seconds up the road from him. Just out of screen here is that number 55. And, you know, Yazik's got a little bit of rear end damage. It's kind of hard to see as he flashed by. There is the number 55. It's kind of hard to see, but he's got a little bit of a crinkle in that rear bumper. And getting a little bit of damage on the rear of these cars tends to make them a little bit looser. And so I wonder if that's something that Yazik has fought tonight, because we haven't quite seen him make a move to the front as fast as I thought we would, especially because he started down in the 30th position. But now he's in the top 5, running pretty smoothly.
And depending on how the setup is driving, you know, sometimes that can help you if you get that a little bit of damage, and it'll just loosen that car up a little bit, since you don't have any of their adjustments. But you know, still 5th place, pretty good run for him. Of course, he started in 30th, so you know, 25 spots gain, definitely not a bad night at all.
There is your race leader, Jared Mogard. He's battling with some lap traffic. That's the number 91 of Jordan Pauly right in front of him. Pauly running in the 35th position currently, 1 lap off the pace. But I think that 91's got some fresher tires on him, so he's definitely going to make life tough for Mogard, as that 91's running way up high on the racetrack. There is Sam Maxwell now about a second behind Mogard, and Kelsey Rogers still about a half second behind Sam Maxwell, so not much has happened between Kelsey and Sam. Those two kind of holding the station, but Danny Rogers is closing in on Kelsey Rogers just a little bit in that number 02. So Danny, who ran out of fuel with just a few laps left last week at Atlanta Motor Speedway, trying to make up for that with a top 5 finish here tonight. There he goes under the 41 of Knott, as we're looking now. This battle just a little bit behind them. This is Joe Burchett and Evan Black. That's a battle for the 7th position at the stripe. Black has caught Joe, as there's a couple of lap fresher tires on that number 92 machine, as a 1 lap tire advantage, excuse me. So I think that Joe definitely had a great pit stop, but those few lap older tires for some of the people he's been running with seems to have not helped that number 67 Camaro, as Evan Black just all over that back bumper.
Yeah, definitely. If you get those fresh tires and can't get around the slower cars quick enough, you know, sometimes that advantage you get can just be thrown out the window, as you are going to spend a lot more time, you know, just burning up the tires.
Oh, contact! Your race leader. There's no harm, no foul here, but the number 91 of Jordan Pauly making life very difficult. Look at this. This is in turn number 3, and Mogard just drifts up a little bit. The 91, there's just, there was, I don't even think you could put a piece of paper between those two cars, but those two drivers able to keep things going straight. No harm, no foul, but I think if I was Mogard, I'd get a little bit upset here with the 91. Definitely giving him nothing on the racetrack, as it hasn't really hurt Mogard's advantage. Maxwell about 8/10 behind, and a little bit faster last lap was Maxwell. So definitely might be bringing this pack, as Kelsey Rogers now under fire from Danny Rogers for the 3rd position. And this pack might be starting to close in on the leader, especially if the 91 continues to give Jared grief.
And you know Maxwell's got to be thinking, go up there and battle a little bit more so he can go catch him. But that's pretty much, I think that might be his only chance at this point, because he is just consistently just a little bit off of Mogard's pace. You know, not sometimes they trade fast laps here and there, but I think Mogard just is he's got the fresher tires by that 1 lap difference.
Yeah, absolutely. The battle for 3rd is really the hottest battle on the track. Danny Rogers closed right in on Kelsey Rogers, and Brian Yazek has just basically stayed right behind Danny Rogers. Those two drivers is, ooh man, it looks like the number 91 got the wall that time. Yeah. He's spinning around, coming out of turn number 2. Almost caught your race leader. We are under the caution flag with 11 laps to go. We're going to have a shootout here at the Kentucky Speedway. But that is Jordan Pauly. I think he just caught the wall a little bit.
That's going to change everything. Throw all the strategy that we just had out the window.
Give everyone fresh tires. I think it's a little bit too late to try 2 tires, but I'm not sure. There you go. You see Polly clipping that outside wall, got that number 91 loose. He did a good job trying to keep it off of Jared Mogard and just kind of kept it woed down. The rest of the field, good job to miss him, especially he was up there near that front pack. Here on board with your race leader, Jared Mogard, and yep, just a good job getting that car woed down. And definitely a good thing he has a black fire suit in that number 00. He might need a new one after this race. But we'll have to wait and see. 10 laps to go, Cameron. This, like you said, changes everything.
Yeah, I expect the... Oh, we have some strategy here. The 98 Maxwell ducked out. Gonna stay on the racetrack.
That is a super gutsy move by Sam Maxwell. We've already seen even 1 lap fresher tires is an advantage. He's got 30-plus laps on his tires as Jared Mogard hits the pits. There's Kelsey Rogers in the number 35 into his box. Hits his marks nicely. Everyone throughout the field, I see everyone doing a good job of hitting their marks. It's such important. Oh, looks like the 51 had to back up. Mitch Brown had to back up just a little bit to get into his pit stall. We'll see who's the first man off pit road. It will be Jared Mogard, the first one on 4 fresh tires. Didn't see any 2 tires throughout the field. Cameron, as the field comes off pit road, I can't imagine what's going through the head of Sam Maxwell right now, because he's essentially going to have people with 4 fresh tires right on his back door.
Yeah, it's probably a lot of words that we can't say on air, really. What was going to help him is if, you know, multiple people stayed out, and, well, he's kind of going to be a sitting duck on this restart with those old tires, and the first car behind him is going to be, you know, Mogard with 4. So, you know, his bed's made at this point, so he's going to have to live with this decision, and, you know, see what we can do with it.
Yeah, the good thing for the 98 is there's only 9 laps to go. The bad news is no one else came with him, or no one else stayed out with him on the racetrack, as Jared Mogard will be right there. There is the 00 just to his outside. But we should be having about a 6-lap shootout, I would think, here to determine tonight's race winner.
Now, we have seen some crazy things happen on restarts, especially late in the race. We're going to have, what, about 6 to go, as you said, at the restart. What Sam's going to want to do is he's going to want to get that jump on Mogard and not, you know, hopefully not spin his tires. And what he's going to need is a, like, immediate yellow. So I think that's what he's going to be hoping for to be able to win this race. But otherwise, I think those fresh tires are just going to eat him up, and that's going to be all she wrote.
Yeah, if I was Sam Maxwell, basically, I'd try and get going. If I can clear Jared Mogard into turn number 1, it would be, I'd basically just have to keep my foot flat and hope it sticks through turns 1 and 2, because it definitely won't stick through 3 and 4. And by that time, if there's no caution out, I think you're a sitting duck, like you said. But
one thing I do want to watch out for is, as we were talking about, this track is really bumpy on the front stretch, which means when you have old tires, you know, that could lead to some wheel spin on restart. So hopefully he can. Yeah, I think we see him on the screen here, just trying. He's gassing up the car to see if it'll stick when he gets going here in a lap.
Yep, definitely have seen on certain tracks in the iRacing service, it's tough to get going even when you have fresh tires, but when you have the older tires that have lost much of their stick, it can be really difficult to get going. So, pace car lights are off. We'll have 6 laps to go when the green flag comes back out to determine tonight's winner of the Sam Maxwell Customs Bluegrass 150, round 2 of the American Sim Racing Series Sim Marketing Solutions Cup Series here on 3 Wide TV. And definitely stand up, get on the edge of your seat, because this is going to be an absolute battle. Cameron, we have all... Well, I take that back. Jordan Polly is on pit road, but besides Jordan, who's down there, 35 cars currently on track. So This is going to be a really exciting shootout all throughout the field. I expect to see it just like the start of the race when there were 3 and possibly even 4 wide. But the pace car will turn hard left and we'll get set to go back to green. It will be in the hands. Oh, there is Sam Maxwell. He got a terrible restart. He's all over the place. Cars are everywhere. Krobach spinning through the grass. Oh my goodness, you said it. Could get wheel spin on the restart, but Mogart gets ahead and he's got a huge advantage.
Yeah, that was pretty much the worst case scenario for Maxwell there. His car just darted right, and I'm surprised that wasn't a bigger wreck than it was, but I think that's going to be all she wrote for Mogart. He's already extended his lead. Actually, no. Here comes Kelsey Rogers.
Yeah, Mogart
try to go for that lead.
Mogart did not get a good run through 3 and 4, and that's going to close Kelsey Rogers right up on his back bumper. This battle is not over, folks. As Kelsey Rogers closed up right behind him, Corey Silva and the 94 machine has moved up into the 3rd position. Danny Rogers battling underneath, but Danny's got some rear end damage from that Hector restart. Oh, we got a car around. That is Jim Foose around, and that is going to most likely do it. There's a heap of cars on the backstretch. There is Jim Foose getting going in that 42 Mobil 1 machine. That was a pretty lucky machine. Oh, looks like just a couple of drivers got together, ran out of room. There were 3 wide, really tight 3 wide, and then a couple of drivers all went around. Foose getting involved in that one. Robert Hill getting involved in that. Troy Haight getting involved in it. Not really sure what happened there. Just the track seemed to close up on that 3 wide battle. Just one of those racing deals close to the end of an event.
Yeah, just ran out of room, and we were talking about this early in the race. This track is very wide, but it's also narrow at the same time. Those inside walls are very close to the track, so that does create a kind of a funnel effect when things like that happen. And see what happened there. It was a proper parking lot on the backstretch.
Yeah, Troy Haight was the number 28. You were riding on board with him, as it looked like he had a window of opportunity to get through that accident, but it closed up mighty quick as we go back to that restart. Look at all those drivers going all over the place. Brian Yazik, I think he got into the back of the O2 of Danny Rogers, and Yazik dropped down to the 6th position. Look at that. Watch that number 55 up at the top of your screen. I think, yep, there's the contact right there. And, oh, poor old Krobach going around a little bit further in the back. He went through the grass. Watch that number 72. He gets going here, and I'm not sure if there was a little bit of contact in the back of Joe Burchett that sent that number 72 around, but he did a good job, A, keeping it off pit road, but B, also preventing any further damage to that machine. Yeah, you can see it. That number 98 went to put the pedal to the metal, and those rear tires just said no thank you. And he dropped well back in the pack. In fact, I'm looking at the current running order, and Sam Maxwell is in 19th position. So I think a couple of drivers actually might have got black flags from that restart. They've all been cleared by the in-race official because, whoa, Sam Maxwell, I'm not exactly sure what's happened, but he looks like he's parked that number 98. He's probably very disappointed with how that last restart went. But he will retire from this event. We'll finish well down the order after a fantastic race at Atlanta and what looked to be a promising finish here tonight. As we only have 2 laps to go, pace car lights are still on, and that means this race will be over. Jared Mogart he's led the most laps tonight. He will finish with 59 laps led, well over half this event. And definitely a really impressive performance after starting in the 22nd position. And I was kind of surprised by that qualifying lap, but he definitely made it through the field and made pretty quick work of the field.
Absolutely. That was a great run, great charge through the field. As far as Sam Maxwell goes, you know, it's easy to say like, why did you do that? Why did you make that call? But you know, I like gambles myself. I think if you can't beat him on pure speed alone, you know, why not try something? And even though it didn't work out, sometimes it just doesn't. So nothing to be ashamed of there. He tried something, it didn't work. It happens. I think Jared Mogard was the fastest driver in this race. He put a clinic on almost, not really, but great run by him, and he's gonna come home with another one.
White flag is in the air here at Kentucky Speedway. These drivers will drive around at 50 miles an hour. Well, no, 60 miles an hour. Pit road speed's 50. Pace speed is 60, and they'll get around this final lap around this 1.5 mile racetrack. Round 2. Next week, we might see a lot more yellows because next week it is the high banks of Bristol Motor Speedway, the Bull Ring. I'm sure there are drivers in this field looking forward to it, and I'm sure there are probably an equal amount of drivers not looking forward to it because you never quite know what Bristol Motor Speedway will bring. That will be the Thunder Valley 200 laps around Bristol next week here on 3 Wide TV. I always look forward to Bristol Motor Speedway. It's one of my favorite tracks to run around. You get in the zone. You hit those banks lap after lap. Rhythm racetrack.
Definitely. It's a good change of pace. We've had 2 intermediates back-to-back, and I know a lot of these drivers will be looking for a change of scenery, but Jared Mogard going to come home with the win.
Well, week 2, race win number 2 for Jared Mogard in the number 00 as he takes that machine back to victory lane. Like you said, these drivers might be hoping for a change of scenery, but that 00 isn't. He's hoping to go 3 for 3 next week at Bristol Motor Speedway. Had an absolute fantastic run for him, and also a great run for the number 35, Kelsey Rogers, finishing in the 2nd position. I think really Kelsey was just running in the top 5 all night, kept it clean, didn't make the big mistakes, and comes home with a great finish, as I'm sure we'll see that 00 light him up once again. 2 out of 2 for him. And, you know, it's interesting because some of the same storylines from last week kind of popped up again. We saw Mogard getting the checkered flag. We saw Will Worstler get the pole, 2 out of 2 on poles for him. And then he faded off due to a mistake later on in the race. So, don't want to sound like a broken record, but we've definitely seen a couple parallels between these 2 1.5 mile races. So maybe it is a good change of pace that we'll get the half-mile Bristol next week.
And we see the 30 of Brad Cross coming here to congratulate Mogard on his victory. You know, that was a great race, Peter. Had a lot of everything, long green run, strategy, some fireworks at the end. Great race to watch from up here in the booth.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brad Cross, we didn't really mention him much tonight in that number 30 Speed Energy Toyota, but he comes home with a very solid 12th place finish, keeping it nice and clean. As we'll have to wait and see if we can get some of these drivers here on 3 Wide TV for interviews. And I think Cameron Rich has caught up with our 3rd place finisher, Corey Silva.
Corey, 3 Wide TV in the booth. You got us.
I got you guys.
Hey man, that was a great race there for you. Started 20th on the field, finished 3rd. We saw that last restart kind of turn into a bit of a mess there, but tell us about your.
Well, I guess my trend is I don't know how to qualify in this car. So I qualify mid-pack, and then I know how to race it. So I drove my way up there. It was really hard to pass, but we got up there. Probably had a 5th, 6th place car at best. And then, like I said, we just lucked out with that caution being in the right spot and somehow got a 3rd out of it. I don't know how I did, but I didn't like this place at all, so I'll take it. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You are one of the biggest movers tonight, 20th to 3rd, so that's a pretty good improvement there, I'd say. But you know, this race had a lot of green runs, or a very long green run there. What was your strategy for that long green run to make up spots?
Well, you really couldn't run the bottom too well until the tires really wore. So you really wanted to get to people's outside. So just really positioning yourself up there and just being patient because it got really loose on exit. So you really wanted to keep the right rear on it and make sure you had that traction. And then it was just a matter of timing your pit stop, nailing that, and just preparing for the run to the end. And like I said, we had about probably 6th place wrapped up, and I was going to be more than happy with that. But when that caution came out, I was like, all right, let's see what we can do. And we didn't die on that restart, and here we are.
Yeah, you're right about that. I want to just ask you, like, what was your thought process there on that restart? We saw you start right on the inside, right behind the leader with old tires. You know, sometimes that could be a, you know, oh no moment. I know it is for me, but did you have like a escape plan of sorts just to, you know, hopefully get around the mess if it happened, and it kind of did?
Well, in all honesty, there's a lot of rules in the league about restart, so I was really worried about getting a black flag before if something happened before the line, and then I was worried about maybe having a lane change issue. So I was just dedicated to staying on the inside and keeping in my mirror, trying to make sure that I had space around me, staying behind until the start-finish line, and then once that happened, just making my move. And I was lucky that nothing really happened until after the start-finish line, so I was able to make my move clearly, and caution came out at the right time to seal for 3rd.
All right, man. Well, you finished 2nd last week at Atlanta, 3rd this week at Kentucky. We go to the half-mile bull ring of Bristol next week. We know you said that you're not good at qualifying, but how are you looking forward to that race?
It all depends how it races. If I did a couple B-Fix races there earlier in the summer, and you were running right on the bottom. So if it runs like that, we're gonna have a lot of fun. If it's right around the top like usual, then we're gonna pray for the best, but I have more confidence going in there, so we're looking.
All right, man. Thanks for talking with us. We know you got some shout-outs for us. Throw them out.
Yeah, of course. Primetime Racing, Rapid Fire Graphics for my car. Thank Jim for the league, and just a shout out to you guys for picking up and doing a great job with the.
All right, man. Congrats to Corey Silva. That is our 3rd place finisher tonight. Thanks for talking with us. And I think Peter's caught up with our 2nd place finisher.
Well, here is the 2nd place finisher, Kelsey Rogers. We caught up with him. Kelsey, here we are in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy, bud?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, man, you had a fantastic run here tonight. Looked like you had about a 5th place car, and you just kept it clean all night, kept it in the right place, minimized your mistakes, and came home with a 2nd place finish. Talk us through your race from your eyes.
Yeah, really just tried to take care of it there. Keep the tires on it at the end was really the name of the game. Got a little crazy on the last start, kept it together. I hope everything's kosher by the rule book there. I know the car behind me hit the brakes to stay behind the car that spun, and created kind of a backup there, sent a car through the grass, and that's what I tried to avoid by going past the car that spun his tires. So hopefully there's no discrepancy there, but Mogard ran a fast race tonight, and yeah, no complaints.
Yeah, definitely on that restart, you being the first car right behind the number 98. I know Cameron asked this question just a second ago to Corey Silva, but did you have a escape plan planned out in the back of your mind there on that restart? Because it got pretty hairy pretty fast.
I mean, I thought maybe he would have a plan to, you know, be a little clever there on the restart with the older tires, but he just kind of gunned it and took off. As far as a plan, no. I just didn't want to hit anybody. I knew it was going to probably get a little crazy, though. I was hoping I could get around it before it did.
We saw you towards the end catch, you know, lead a fairly sizable train. It looked like it was pretty hard to pass tonight. Was the setup not helping people make those passes?
Yeah, I think it's just the default setup on a night race here at Kentucky. It seems like anytime you get the Cup cars at the 1.5-mile tracks on the default setups at night, it gets pretty tight. So everybody minds their P's and Q's. They're big, fast cars, and nobody wants to hit each other. So track gets a little one-lined, and it's kind of a product of what you saw.
Absolutely. Well, this week was Kentucky. Next week, Bristol Motor Speedway. What are your thoughts about the half-mile bull ring?
Hold on.
Yep, that's about the best way to put it. Well, Kelsey, you got any shout-outs for us?
No, just Jim. He puts on a good league. He works really hard and gives the racers a lot of good content to look at throughout the week. You guys for covering the race, and everybody for coming out and racing tonight.
Well, thank you very much, Kelsey. Congratulations on your second-place finish here tonight. Started 6th, finishing 2nd here at Kentucky Speedway. We'll see you again next week. And I think Cameron Rich is down there in Victory Lane with your race winner, Jared Moger.
Jared Mogard, this is 3Vide TV. You got a copy, bud?
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. That was a great race run. Started 22nd, I believe, and you were in the lead by lap 25. So I'd say you put on a pretty good whooping out there. Led the most laps, 59 laps tonight. Tell us about your race, dude.
Yeah. We didn't have a very good qualifying run. We're just, I don't know, that's one area we struggle, but we usually race pretty good. And went to the front there pretty quick, a little bit quicker than I thought we were going to. And yeah, I kind of thought we were maybe burning our stuff up a little bit, but we really weren't, a little bit, but not too bad. But yeah, we were really, really good in race trim there, and you know, everything worked out again in the end.
Yeah, we were noticing up here in the race, it was really hard to pull away tonight. We saw you get out to the lead, and just, you know, the largest lead you accrued was about a second plus or minus, you know, when pit stops were happening. Were you saving your tires or just trying to pace yourself, or were you just not able to gap the cars behind?
That long run there, I think I kind of burnt myself up a little bit. Lower Mitch and them guys get back to me, but after we made the green flag pit stop there, I tried saving my tires a little bit, and I ran Sam down, and I think I was up to about a second lead until the lap car decided he wanted to pretend to race for the lead or something. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but you know, up until then we had about a second lead on him, and we were slowly starting, you know, to grow it a little bit. But yeah, you know, that last run there, I was really more conscious about tire management a little bit more.
Yeah, we were wondering about that all race, but you know, on that last restart there, we saw the 98 stay out, and you know, it had 30 some lap old tires. Of course, you on fresh tires, we thought you were going to just drive away, but did you kind of think that what happened was going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I knew he was going to spin the tires on the restart, but you know, Sam's a smart guy, so I figured he knew what he was doing, and he wasn't going to jump the entire field, which he didn't. And then, you know, when you get them last 5 lap runs at the end, you're more often than not, there's usually a yellow. So, you know, obviously I wanted it to go green, but we'll take the yellow to get the win too. So.
Absolutely, man. Well, we saw you take the win at Atlanta. We saw you take the win tonight at Kentucky, 2 intermediate tracks. Next week we go to Bristol, the half-mile bull ring. Are you looking forward to that?
No, I am not. It's just a tight little track. I don't know. It can be fun, but you know, at the same time, it's a short track with not a lot of room, so it'll be stressful, and hopefully not a wreck fest. Hopefully we'll be able to put on a good show again. I mean, the first 2 races this year have been really, really good, so hopefully the short track mindset will provide or show up, and we'll race smart and put on a good show again next week.
All right, man. Well, it's a perfect start to the season. You can't get any better than that, but you got any shout-outs?
Yeah, I gotta thank my sponsors. iBuyPower Computers, TDS Internet, Coffman Racing Graphics, Twitchy Race Reports, and of course MOSRN for allowing me to be on their team. Like I said last week, it's gonna be a good year, and it's definitely started off pretty dang good as well. I gotta give a shout out. I don't know if you're still watching or not. I know they were going to, but the Wagamans, they're tuning in, so thank them for watching, and all the other fans tuned in. Hope they enjoyed it. It's been a good show.
All right, man. Thanks for talking with us. We do appreciate it. That was your winner, Jared Mogard. Comes home with the win tonight and last week as well. So a perfect start to the season for him. Definitely, I think he's happy with that. And Peter Short has caught up with the 29 of Will Worsler.
Hey, Will, this is Peter Short up here in the 3-Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
All right, man, you started on the pole. You've been fast for the second week in a row. Last week, of course, you had the black flag situation at Atlanta Motor Speedway. This week, it looks like pit lane bit you. Tell us a little bit about your race.
Well, pit lane bit me last week as well, so 2 weeks in a row for me. I keep shooting myself in the foot. Having to spend the majority of these last 2 weeks just kind of dealing with the mess that I've made. But, speed doesn't really matter if you don't bring your A game, especially when you're in a group of guys in a league like this right here, like Jared Mogard and Brian Yazik and Krobach, and those guys are all really good, really fun to race with. And if you don't bring it, man, you're gonna finish like I've been finishing.
Yeah, we were keeping an eye on where you were on track with about 20 laps to go. You were down in the 20th position, but you were able to rally for that 15th place finish a little bit there at the end. That last restart, you had the 98 on old tires up at the front. You're a little bit further back in the pack. What was going through your mind for that final restart?
Really, what goes through my mind the whole race, just keep my car clean and look out. When I'm in a part of the pack, especially towards the end of the race like that, I'm just trying to keep my car clean and look out for what's in front of me, not get caught up in anything.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw definitely people wrestle with that car tonight. It seemed like you had a pretty good handle on it, but that first long run that we had, we saw you fade off a little bit. Did you just burn up your stuff a little bit out there?
I don't know that I burnt my stuff up. I thought I did at the time. I can't really say the setup changed, but the conditions changed. Something changed. I don't know what it was. Definitely the handling and feel of the car did. But it really, by the end of that run, came back to me, and I felt like I was gaining speed. But there was something definitely going on there in the middle that cost me a little bit. It was hard for me to deal with, and just took some acclimation, and then I was able to do a little bit better.
Absolutely. Will, we've seen you sit on the pole for 2 weeks in a row here in the ASRS Sim Marketing Solutions Cup Series. Next week we go to Bristol Motor Speedway. It's not a 1.5 mile track, it's a half-mile track. What are your plans to prepare for next week at Bristol, and what are your thoughts about that race?
Historically, I've done really well at Bristol. I would say of the 3 tracks that we will have seen this year, that'd probably be my strongest one. That being said, I need to practice green flag pit stops during the upcoming week, I would say.
Absolutely. That's going to be definitely on the forefront of your mind, Will. Before you go, do you have any shout-outs for us here on 3-Wide TV?
Yes, sir, I do. I want to thank you guys for 3-Wide doing the broadcast. You guys do a good job. And I want to thank Troy Haight for giving me the opportunity to represent Hater Racing. I want to thank Jim Foose for the opportunity to run in this league. And I want to thank Sam Maxwell and Maxwell Customs for all they do for the drivers in the league. He does a lot, paying for our practices and stuff, and I appreciate it. And I guess that's it.
All right, well, we thank you for stopping by. Anytime you want to come have a chat, just drop down into that waiting room, and we'll wait to talk to you. And thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next week at Bristol Motor Speedway.
Yeah, see you guys. Thank you.
All right, Cameron. Well, that basically puts a bookend on tonight's race, but an absolute fantastic race. Like you said, I think we saw a little bit of everything tonight.
Definitely. Long green runs, pit strategy, fireworks, a lot of side-by-side racing. And saw Jared Mogard come up with another win on the season.
Yep, and we'll have to keep an eye on whether or not he can make it 3 for 3 next week at Bristol Motor Speedway. We'll have to see if Will Worsler can make it 3 for 3 for poles next week too. So those are 2 storylines headed into next week. But we'll have to wait 7 nights to find out the answers to those stories. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute honor from here on 3Wide TV. Jared Mogard is going to come home your race winner here for the Sam's Maxwell Customs Bluegrass 150, as we'll have the results coming up on the screen. Mogard is your race winner. Kelsey Rogers, great finish to come home in second. Corey Silva, also a great run to finish third. Danny Rogers rallying back from that running out of fuel last week at Atlanta Motor Speedway to finish fourth. Joe Burchett finishes in the 5th position. Brian Yazik 6th. Evan Black 7th. Ty Hester 8th. Remember, he did some pit strategy earlier on in the race. That paid off well for him. Jared Haggerty comes home 9th. Mitch Brown in 10th.
Alan Young in 11th. Brad Cross finishing 12th. Travis Ruger 13th. Scott Smith 14th. Will Worsler, who we just talked to, rallied back to finish 15th after that penalty. Kaz Bedford 16th. Alex Pelican 17th. Andy Veltman 18th. Tyler Seville 19th. And Jason Stewart finishing
in 21st is Lee Staples. Nick Curling finished 22nd. Mark Whitley 23rd. Richard Stallings 24th. Clarence Bonner 25th. Jim Foose 26th. Troy Haight 27th. Robert Hill 28th. Michael Krobot 29th. And 30th, Tim Knott.
31st, Alex Geese, who had some trouble on that restart. Jimmy McKee finishing 32nd. Steve Bahala 33rd. Josh Walker 34th. Sam Maxwell, of course, leading on the last restart. Having some issues there, just DNFing from the race. Finishing 35th. 36th, Jordan Polly, and finishing 37th. Did not actually start the race, I don't believe, is Brandon Stokes.
Well, that will wrap it up from us here at 3Wide TV. Want to give a shout out to SimTV for their fantastic cameras throughout this race here for the American Sim Racing Sim Marketing Solutions Cup Series here on 3Wide TV. We thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again next week. For Peter Short and Cameron Rich, thank you very much. Make sure to like the video and subscribe for other races.